On October the 7th, 2020, Nigerian youths began a protest calling for an end to the brutality and extrajudicial killings by the Special Anti-Robbery Unit of the Nigerian Police Force. The unit, popularly called SARS, had been accused of invading homes, educational institutions, business premises, and fun spots, where they arrest young persons, extort money from them, or even kill those who dare to question them. Progressively, however, the protests attracted other youth groups whose growls with the Nigerian state went beyond these human rights abuses by SARS. The protest turned into a kind of referendum by a Roman mob on government and governance in Nigeria. Some Nigerians feared that a revolution could be in the offing.
The progenitors of the protest say that they have a revolution in mind. So yes, if they want a revolution, there's a chance that this may actually lead to a revolution. However, the caveat is that it's a revolution that's about to happen in a democratic setting. Most revolutions in history would happen when maybe monarchs are leading or somebody has got power without the imprimatur or the say-so or the popular wishes of the people. If this will be a revolution that will happen in a democratic setting, we need to be careful.
Many Nigerians expressed concern that the government was rattled even as it was taken by surprise by the turn of events. The protests have become violent and lawlessness was overtaking the nation. The military institution, which was in power for over 29 years before the return of the present democratic order, felt a sense of unassigned duty to threaten the protesting youths, who it described as agents of subversion. A number of Nigerians have queried the entry of the military into the fray. Is there no laid-down procedure for the military to intervene in civil disorder? By the time the military issued the threat to the protesting youths, was that procedure followed? Was the National Assembly privy to the likely entry of the military into managing a purely civil disobedience? Whereas the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has said that the state government never invited the soldiers, the military authorities said last Tuesday that the state government invited them after declaring a 24-hour curfew to contain the lawlessness and looting which the protests were turning into.
It is only where the president deemed it fit and called when the situation demands for it, calls for a declaration of emergency, that the president will now be authorized by the National Assembly to call out the military to suppress or to quell any riot or any disturbance of peace and order in the society. But you will agree with me that there has been no invitation by the president or any address.
Before then, however, on October the 18th, 2020, a coalition of over 30 civil society organizations declared support for the End SARS protests and called on the military to steer clear of the civil protest.
We strongly condemn the thinly veiled threat issued by the military high command, wherein the unacceptable move is being made to crush the peaceful protest. Such a threat is ill-conceived in the face of legitimate citizens' protest and a threat to constitutionally guaranteed rights.
Unfortunately, on October the 20th, 2 days after the coalition warned the military against getting involved in the protests, a deadly shooting took place at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos State. That shooting has become the poster event that has defined the End SARS protests.
In fact, the declaration of the curfew was an afterthought. It was to try to say that, okay, oh, we actually banned protest, because the military already said it was going to intervene. Okay, and nobody in civil authority denied it, or none of them reprimanded the military when the military made that statement.
The toll gate shooting, which is now called Nigeria's Black Tuesday, has thrown up a number of questions. For instance, how faithfully is the Nigerian constitution respected by the institutions whose operations are guided by that document? In this case, the Nigerian military. Was the Nigerian police incapable or overwhelmed to contain the situation? Has the Nigerian police force been so underdeveloped that it cannot exercise its mandate under the Constitution to preserve law and order? Even if the political leadership was taken unawares, did it recover quickly enough to rise to the demand of the protesters? There is no doubt that a number of national fault lines, in addition to the demands of the NSAS protesters, have emerged. It is expected that the many panels of inquiry set up by the state governments across the country will find means to build back the bridges of confidence in government and governance to satisfy the yearnings of the protesting youths. That way, the NSAS protests would have become a major watershed in the relationship between the government and the Nigerian people.